Sono Emma Ursisch, per chi non mi conosce sono il CEO della fondazione The Human Safety Net che ha casa qui, ha la fortuna di avere casa qui e sono molto felice di darvi il benvenuto stamattina. Questo festival va avanti da venerdì, quindi penso che avete avuto modo di vedere le tante bellissime cose che sono state organizzate qui e in tante altre location della città e questa mattina avremo una sessione, io guardavo il programma stamattina e ci sono dei verbi qui, scoprire, capire, imparare, sperimentare, ispirare, immaginare e innovare. Allora, è tanta roba, però penso che sia due cose. Lo spirito di questo luogo, è uno dei motivi per cui l'abbiamo creato, e lo spirito di Aquamour. Io sono molto curiosa di vedere che cosa sentiremo oggi, perché l'idea di non soltanto avere una grande ambizione, ma anche come calarla a terra, e anzi come alcune persone stanno già facendo. Quindi condividere esperienze per vedere non solo che siamo d'accordo che tutti vogliamo fare qualcosa e cercare di farlo meglio in maniera sostenibile, ma anche come, che tante volte è la cosa più difficile. Quindi benvenuti di nuovo, godetevi questa mattinata e direi che siamo pronti a iniziare e passo la parola a Hélène. Grazie a tutti.
Is it working? Yes, it's working. I'm so happy to be here this morning. You can't imagine. I've dreamed of this day. I'm not going to speak too long because we have incredible people with us this morning. And I would like to thank our two godfathers, especially, so Gunter Pauli, the founder of the Blue Economy, and also Andrea Rinaldo, who is our scientific godfather. And I have, in fact, 3 messages to give to you before organizing the different panels. First message is humanity is at a crucial point of its story. We have exceeded 6 of the 9 planetary limits, and even if tremendous jobs have been done to become more and more sustainable, it's not enough, and the situation is worse every day. And this is now a question of death or life for humanity, for us, and for our children. So, crises for me are always opportunities. Opportunities to do something better. And this is why, because we are all responsible of this situation, not just the political people or the corporate or the finance, etc. No, everybody is responsible because we have all contributed to this situation. So we have to do something, all of us. And my contribution has been to decide to create a foundation named Sumus here in Venice, because I think Venice can play a strategic role for the future of Venice, but also for the future of humanity. And for me, the future has not to be feared, the future has to be built. And this is why we launched with the exhibition 1000 donne di Venezia and 150 godmothers, pioneers, the manifesto, the roadmap of Sumus. With the manifesto, the name of this manifesto is We Care, We Dare, a heartfelt, peaceful and regenerative future full of life. And this is not just something we want to say, we really want to implement it. And this is the second message I want to give this morning. Solution exists for a better future. Because in fact we have an ally for humanity, which is not seen today as an ally. And this ally, this very powerful and very intelligent ally, it's nature itself. I'm fond of biomimicry for more than 15 years now. And I was like probably most of you, before, nature for me was, it's beautiful landscape, or it's a natural material that we can use to produce tools, No. Yes, of course, it's beautiful landscape, but it's much more than that. Nature started 4 billion years ago, and it's a research and development process which is permanent. The nature has no weekend, has no vacation, and is always progressing. So, this is why we decided, with Barbara Albazio, to co-create the festival Aquamour Venezia. What is this festival? This festival is to celebrate the intelligence of nature through the intelligence of water, because we are all made with water, plants are made with water, soils are made with water, we have water everywhere. So to celebrate water and to celebrate life. But it's not just that. It's very important, but there is another objective. The other objective is to plant the seeds of a better future here in Venice. And this is the way we have conceived this amazing program, which is a mix between artistic performances, scientific approach, experiences, workshop, etc. With the theme, the common theme, water. So, for example, this afternoon, we will have trainings for the farmers to better understand how seawater can regenerate the soils, how seawater can regenerate the quality of the seeds which have been destroyed by chemical processes. And for me, the heart of this festival, it's this morning. Because without the help of the economic sector and the finance sector, we will not succeed in putting in place, building a new paradigm, a new society in harmony with the living. And this is the theme of this morning, with incredible pioneers, and we will have many panels, the regenerative path, and how biomimicry can give incredible solutions, with Bénédicte Fumé and with Giulio. The last message I want to give this morning: we will not succeed if we are not ready to find inside us the strength, the opportunity to reconnect to our heart and to our soul. We need to replace ego by heart. We need to replace competition by cooperation. And this is what Sumuz is about. Sumuz is about to offer a hub for engaged citizens for a better future. Associations, we want to work with associations, and we are so pleased to have many associations with us. We want to work with the corporate sector on this regenerative path and this biomimicry approach. We want to invite the impact fund, the new finance, who combine profitability and impact with us, and of course, the political sector and the authorities. But I think it's a mistake to wait too much for the political people. It's not to criticize when I say that, because I've been a managing director of the MEDEF, which is the equivalent of Coffee Industria, and I know how difficult it is to manage the current situation. And this is why I think that this bottom-up approach, all together, linked with our hearts, and also linked by something which is above us. We need to transcend ourselves, because what we have to do, if we are on this planet today, and if we are in Venice today, is to build something for the new generation, for our children. It is our duty. So we have to think out of the box, we have to act out of the box, and we have to combine our talents, our process, our companies, everything all together. And this is why we will have a concrete proposal at the end. Why not working all together to build this Venice Aqua project that Giulio will explain to you later? That's it for me. I hope you will discover incredible pioneer people and new approaches. And my aim is that we will build all together a Venezia viva per un mondo vivo.
Benvenuti a tutti, sono Giulio Pasolini. Con franchezza è 15 anni che aspetto questo giorno, dal giorno in cui, dopo una vita passata in vari paesi del mondo, decisi di tornare in Italia. E già allora Gunter Pauli per me era un mentore. Lo consideravo uno di quei giganti sulle cui spalle salire per poter avere una visione migliore del mondo. Lo lasceremo parlare dopo, quindi non dirò nulla, non anticiperò nulla dell'ispirazione che potrà portarvi. Oggi siamo qui per compiere un viaggio di scoperta. Il titolo di questo evento è Riprogettare Venezia con l'intelligenza della natura. Ci sono 3 parti fondamentali. L'intelligenza della natura, e sarà il cuore biomimetica di questa mattinata. Venezia, e non ha bisogno di essere discussa. E riprogettare. In un tempo in cui si parla di intelligenza artificiale, noi vogliamo parlare di intelligenza dell'acqua, ma vogliamo soprattutto parlare di intelligenza umana, di uomini e donne che sanno progettare, che sanno, quindi ispirandosi alla natura e al suo genio, trovare delle soluzioni a delle problematiche cruciali per noi. La prima parte di questa mattinata vedrà Gunter Pauli e Andrea Illy, che ringrazio molto per la loro presenza. Vi dico solo che Gunter Pauli è arrivato da Cape Town per essere qui con noi. E proseguirà con 8 start-up tra le più innovatrici che si possano trovare su temi legati all'acqua, che ci faranno capire e reitereranno questo percorso. Guardiamo alla natura, come già fece Leonardo ovviamente, ma ne abbiamo bisogno più che mai ancora oggi e troviamo soluzioni. E si concluderà con una terza parte, con questa proposta, Venice Aqua Valley, che è ancora un'idea, ne parleremo più tardi, che è un sogno, ma siamo convinti che gli elementi siano già tutti presenti per farla accadere. E oggi è un invito ad abbracciare la complessità della vita. Siamo appunto spesso troppo abituati alla semplicità. La natura in realtà è molto complessa, sembra semplice ma in realtà è molto complessa, ed è un invito a rendere omaggio a chi dedica le proprie vite alla ricerca, a chi dedica le proprie vite allo studio, a risolvere problemi che ci interessano tutti, e quindi abbracciamo la complessità con gioia e vi auguro un viaggio di scoperta emozionante. Ci risentiamo fra un'ora e intanto lascio la parola a Bénédicte Fumé. Grazie.
Here. So I will just take 5 or few minutes to introduce what is regenerative economy or enterprise, just to give you a bit more background information why we really need to move. I think Hélène already made a wonderful presentation and introduction of it, but I will just go a bit further into some details. So what is a regenerative approach? Well, it is based on it's a societal path. It is a cultural and social path. It's not only economy. And it's based on science, but also on consciousness. That's why we refer to culture and to also a philosophical approach, if not to say spiritual, and you will see why. So it's based on science. And we have some frameworks, some scientific frameworks. I'm pretty sure you've heard about it. That was the Club of Rome. And it was the first time that some people got together to try to understand if we were on a sustainable path as a collective group of people, as human species. And they've ordered a study, and it was the Club of Rome report called The Limit of Growth, the 72 report. And we can see here that if we are not changing, we are definitely not on a sustainable path. And that was what Hélène said. We have no other chance we have no other chance. It's not an option. We need to. So you see, in the 20s or 30s, we would have a very important decline of resources. So we need to move. Second framework, and we've talked about it, so I'm not going to talk very long. It's the Stockholm Resilience Center studies about the planetary limits, and Hélène mentioned 6 out of 9 are exceeded. But there are two things I want to streamline. First, look at the ozone layer. It's under. So it means that when humans want to change, he's so intelligent that he can find many solutions to overcome. And we are okay now. And we can do that with all the other limits. But is it what we've done? That's the second idea. Look at the evolution. Not very good. We are exceeding. And getting worse and worse. But why? Because we had the Club of Rome report, we had the Brundtland report about sustainability, we had the Rio de Janeiro COP, we had all the COPs, we have all the ecological rules, standards that are more and more important. So why is it getting worse? Frankly, we can wonder. Well, it is because there's an inner flow in our mindset, in our cultural models, and what I call economic GPS, or our economic software. And that's why we go over and over, taking very risky positions for next generations. So, we need to change. We had to go to a regenerative path. We have to do things differently. That's the regenerative approach, because what's at stake is the biodiversity collapse. And we have more than 1,000 species disappearing every day. So it's not a joke. So, what are our levers? I'd like to go to that slide because I really think it's interesting. It represents our role, position, quality of relation among the other species. And here, it is a cultural framework of understanding why we must change. The ego, it's exactly what we've done until now. It's the Industrial Revolution approach. We are on top of the pyramid. We are mastering nature. Everything is free. Nature is free. We can use it and we can throw it away. We have no consideration of the importance of the interdependence with the other species. Of course, it is not sustainable. Second one, it emerged a bit in the 70s. The human species is among the other species, taking more importance, getting more and more, let's say, aware of the importance of the relation with the other species. But you can see man is not taking its responsibility among the other species, so it's not workable as a collective framework for evolution. Last one is the SEVA one, and Hélène mentioned it. She said we must go from ego to open art, and that's where we are. We are at the bottom, men and women, so we are out of a patriarchal system, and we take care of the other species. We are really valuing the quality of the relation with them. That's exactly the regenerative approach, and it's where we need to go. So the SEVA means humility and taking care of others. That's our model. And why I like this slide? Just because we have our economic system is based on that. Look, the extractive enterprise, getting rid of the resources. Of course it is not sustainable. Second one is where we are now, sustainable enterprise. So it's doing less harm. It means you can still do, let's say, destructive approach on one side, but you have to compensate, to repair, to replant. It's better than nothing, and it's a very good starting point for evolution, but it can't be lasting also. That's why we call that a low vision, a weak vision of sustainability. And the regenerative approach is the last one. It's where we need to go. Because we are here cooperating, taking care of the other species. And that's the strongest vision of sustainability. And it's what our next speakers are going to illustrate with their own practices. So it's a rupture. It's a rupture because in that way, we are really, really getting into taking care of shareholder, not only taking care of shareholder values, but stakeholders' interests are completely embedded. So if I wanted to represent the extractive enterprise, it would be only one blue bubble, the first one. Second one, you can see the evolution of the interest, of stakeholders' interest. We are, let's say, in between the first two, and we need to speed up the move to the last one. And one important point is that it is a system where it is economically viable for enterprise. Doesn't mean we need to go bankrupt, not at all. We have all the solutions to be economically viable while taking care of all the stakeholders' interests. So, what is a regenerative approach? It's supporting conditions that allow an ecosystem to express its full potential, and that's important. Supporting full potential, not repairing, supporting. Yes. This idea is all living systems can regenerate if they are in an ecosystem. They can't regenerate by being alone. The same thing is applied for enterprises. One can be regenerative by itself. It needs to work with others in a circular movement. So that's why it's very important to have regenerative approaches on a territorial approach. Yes. So last word is about, it's not good. My last word is about also our indicators. We used to have, you all know, KPI, key performance indicators. We need to go to robustness, to have key robustness indicators, because it's exactly what nature does. She underperforms to be robust. That's very important because we have to change our mindset. So that's my last one. So if we want to have a bright future for our next generation, we better get inspiration from nature. And that's exactly what we will have with our next two speakers. So I'd like to welcome Gunter and Gunter, Pauli, and Andrea Lilly to join me on that panel. The way you want. So, here. Second. So, let's start with you, Gunter. A few words to introduce you. I could spend the next hour just to introduce everything you're doing, so I'm not going to do that. Just perhaps to best describe you, it's if we're in US, you're said to be the Steve Jobs of sustainability. If you are in the South America, you're said to be the Che Guevara of sustainability. So it just shows that you are really into rupture paths. So you are really supporting major changes. You're also, of course, the founder of the Blue Economy, and that's exactly what you're going to tell us. And also, you created some key standards, zero impact, the zero emission impact, yes. So can you tell us more about the Blue Economy, just to illustrate a bit what we've just mentioned?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. The most important is to be together with you. So, merci beaucoup. Grazie mille. I think it's very important to describe the blue economy not the way it's described in the books. Blue economy is inspiring the next generation to do so much better than their parents have ever been able to imagine. Blue economy is doing better than your dreams. Not achieve your dreams. I mean, who wants to just achieve your dreams and then what? Blue economy is doing better than your dreams ever imagined for you. The dreams you have with your eyes wide open, not the dreams when you're asleep. And this is the key. Blue economy is, of course, economy. It has to be viable, but economics is to be able to sustain what you have in the first place. And you can never do it alone. It is always part of a system. So here I have my first problem. The blue economy is not for people who have an MBA. Master of Business, get out. I have a Master of Business. I studied at INSEAD. What a waste of time. I'm sorry. It is clearly the first row of logic that you have. So I think the biggest problem we're facing is we're crunching out 1 million MBAs every year. 1 million people who all will be applying exactly what was described as being part of the problem. So if someone wants to work with me and they have an MBA, I say no thank you. If someone wants to work with me and they have great experience with the Excel spreadsheet, you don't work for me. Excel spreadsheets are prohibited in my organization. I have nothing against Excel, but I have something against the mindset of using Excel, because you can cheat with yourself. In 1972, I read, as a young boy, the first report to the Club of Rome. I don't need to read any other analysis. The 72 report said it, with mathematics at the core. So all blue economy projects are based on system dynamics mathematics, nothing else. Because we have to understand the system. And you need mathematics, because as you rightfully said, you need the science. And the highest form of science is geometry and mathematics. We have an illness today which is called analysis paralysis. We keep on analyzing everything. I love Johan Rockström. I love Johan. I know him for 30 years. But I know that we're going across these planetary boundaries. So you want to rub it in? No more. Blue economy is focused on implementation. Obsessive implementation of getting things done. Give you an example. I come from Palau. I was last Monday in Palau, small nation in the Pacific, to present this book, Pristine Palau. Why do I go to Palau? Because I would like to suggest that when you say the destruction of the biodiversity, there's another one, destruction of native cultures. In the Pacific Ocean, you still have 1,750 languages spoken. 1,000 of these languages spoken by less than 100 people. Within 10 years, we will have eradicated from the earth 1,000 cultures. No one talks about it. If you lose your identity, your culture, your tradition, your capacity of being custodian with the nature, what is left? But we remember Marshall McLuhan. The medium is the message. This little book is printed on stone paper. I don't use a drop of water. This is using mining waste. I use the waste of mines to generate paper. Paper which is an extrusion, not a flotation. And since we're in Italy, for those who may know, during 12 years I was the chairman of Novamont. Chi conosce Novamont? Bioplastici. The cardo. I mean cardo. We're using thistle, which is a waste product, and we turn it into bioplastics without using any water. On top, we produce in Sardinia the bioplastics in an old petrochemical facility of Eni. Eni Importatores had a huge old 1962 petrochemical facility they had to close down. We took it over and we turned it into a biorefinery. That is blue economy. Use what you have. Go for the full potential. Turn it into something that no one could dream of. Who could dream of that instead of spraying glyphosates on cardo, we're harvesting the cardo, we're taking the oil of the plant, we're turning the oil into an acid. The stem of 2-3 meters is cellulose. Cellulose we transform into sugars. Sugars turn into alcohol. And when you have an acid and an alcohol, you make plastics. I've just demystified plastics. Plastics is so easy to make. It's embarrassing. It's so polluting. So blue economy is looking at the potential, pulling the past and the future together. The past errors of ignorance of a petrochemical facility with amianti. And we're cleaning up the amianti over the next 25 years out of cash flow we generate by using cardo. That's blue economy. It's very practical. It's focused. And it is focused on doing it faster than anyone expects. This is just an introduction. I know you will come back to me for more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Andrea, to be with us. So you are the founder, you have the third generation of Illy Coffee. So a wonderful company created in 1933, here in Italy. You also hold many other positions in Italy, so you're like Gunter. We could have lots of time to just describe everything you're doing, but you're also very involved, of course, into the coffee industry, but also into the regenerative society, because you've created the regenerative society, exactly, it's called Regenerative Society Foundation. So I would be very happy if you could tell us more about the regenerative practices you have with your own coffee production, but also give few words about this wonderful foundation and what are their objectives.
Thank you so much. Very difficult to speak after so many very good introductions. I'm really impressed, and we are 100% alignment with whatever has been said so far. So I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm either obsessed with execution or I go bankrupt. So this is why I will try to give you a kind of an operational perspective, which is the one we outline in the Regenerative Society Foundation. Actually, I will go the opposite direction, because chronologically, the Regenerative Society Foundation has been the last, and regenerative agriculture the first. But from the logical point of view, it's better for me to start from there. So the Regenerative Society Foundation started when a couple of entrepreneurs, after having listened to me, publicly lecturing about this regenerative agriculture framework, came to me asking, we want to create a foundation about regeneration and would like you to chair it, to lead it, etc., etc. And, but there is an imperative that we want this regeneration approach to be applicable to any possible economic activities. I said, no, this is not possible, because regeneration is a biological process, repairing and duplicating cells in order to maintain or recreate life. So it's part of the so-called biosphere, no matter if it is a terrestrial or aquatic ecosystems. But they insisted. So we took a period of time, and we eventually came out with a framework which is not always, let's say, remember. It's about ecosystem services. Ecosystem services provide 100% non-excluded of the living factors for us. There are two main, most important categories: the provisionary ones, providing whatever is necessary for life, from the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the fabric we wear, the material we use. And then there are the regulating one, which goes from maintaining stability. In this Gaia, I started studying James Lovelock in the 80s. Gaia, the Earth, is considered to be a kind of a living system, because it's work like with homeostasis. Everything is regulated, but the responsible of this regulation are once again these ecosystem services. So we are talking about 125 million square kilometers in the world of natural ecosystems providing these ecosystem services. Most productive ones are tropical forests, but then you have swamps, you have oceans, you have any kind of different natural ecosystems with different capacities. The question is the capacity one, because our model that you mentioned clearly, it's an extractive one. We keep extracting resources, natural resources, both from the biosphere and the geosphere, like they were infinite, and they are not. And worse, on top of this, at the end of this life cycle, waste. He said in another meeting that you could live with zero waste. Whatever you do in your life, and it is true, you could do it by simply regenerating over and over and over and over again the resource that you are using. This is not the extractive model. So as a consequence of this, we are destroying, we are depleting natural capital, the natural capital being those ecosystems I described, as we grow GDP. So it's a vicious circle. The more we grow, the more we destroy our living factors. Can you imagine that? How stupid we are. So it's just a mistake. It's a little mistake we can correct very, very briefly in a short period of time. We have to change the course of progress. So The other aspects which is relevant in this conversation, still in the whys. Why? Because we have to stand as the why before we go to the how and then finally the what. It has already been said, everything is interconnected. The society, the economy and nature. It's what I call eco-socio-environmental meta-system. Each of one of these systems are already terribly complex. How complex is the society? How complex is the economy? You put all this together, the complexity reaches some levels which are simply unmanageable. And we are the design as humans in our brain to be linear, because we have a very, let's say, short-lived evolution, and we know 4 dimensions: width, length, height, and maybe time. No more than that. But until you have 4 variables, the systems are still linear. When you go to the 5th variable, systems are not linear at all. And it's a completely different, has been mentioned by Gunter, completely different mathematics, which is non-linear, is unpredictable, and it also generates these emergencies, as they are called. Typical emergence has been shown in the chart was COVID, things that we cannot predict and we cannot manage. So we have to change completely the way we approach this. So how? How is changing the course of progress? Progress is perfect because it solves problems as we go. But because we don't know which are the new problems created by progress. So now we have a clear understanding that this exponential progress that we had in the last century created this problem, which is described by the, let's say, crossing of the 6 of the 9 planetary boundaries. So we need a new model which we can call regenerative, which is depleting much less natural resources and zero pollution. Is it possible? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Of course, this regenerative economy needs to be circular. But let's try to give a description of this regenerative definition. It has already been said that it needs to account not only monetary factors, but also social and environmental. So how can we translate that? Regenerative economy produces well-being, prosperity, while conserving the natural capital. So why well-being is so important? Because if we don't have the social engagement first, there is no change. There must be a promise and a dividend. The promise, if we talk about well-being, health, and social inclusiveness. Why social inclusiveness is so relevant? First of all, because citizens, people, are the real actor. They are consumers, they are workers, they are voters, and they are investors. Corporations are relevant because they share 2/3 of the world GDP. Corporation needs to do what the boss complies to do, which is the citizen. So it's worthless for having businesses trying to go in a direction which are not aligned with what the consumer wants. If we want to involve the consumer, we have to do it in a proper way. Because if you try to charge the bill to the poor people, you are going to have a pushback. So this is why we have to pursue solutions which are cheaper and safer for the consumer, which is possible, of course, but it requires a damned amount of industrial policies in order to have this coevolution. When we talk about the second, prosperity, it's always the same. It's about growth, which is necessary for the cash flow, otherwise you cannot invest, and it's about jobs. And last but not least, conserving natural capital is about biomass. The only way to sequestrate carbon is in the biosphere. If we are going to have mineral carbon, it will pass through organic carbon before to become mineralized. So this is the cycle. This is how it works. Of course, we pull out mineral carbon which has been stored in the geosphere since millennials. Okay, but still the only machine to sequestrate carbon is the photosynthesis. Thank you. And the second is the biosphere, which has been mentioned. Biosphere not per se. Biosphere as the relevant species for producing those ecosystem services. Because we don't even know how many species we have on the planet. There is an educated guess that there are between 7 to 10 million, but we only know 2.5. So why should we pursue biosphere per se if we don't even know what it is? Let's try to focus pragmatically our effort in safeguarding those species which are relevant for our ecosystem services. So this is all about, learning. So with this idea in mind, what is a regenerative company? A regenerative company, reflecting the regenerative economy, produces well-being, prosperity, while conserving the environment. This last one is not so evident, and I'm going to tell you something which is quite terrifying. I have been, let's say, recommended to be careful about how I say that. The question of natural conservation. The problem is not to conserve nature, those natural ecosystem services, any longer from defending from humans. The problem is protecting against natural self-destruction, triggered by this environmental crisis. Think about how many fires, droughts, floods, pandemias are destroying ecosystems which at exponential speed, that we have to charge ourselves in order to protect these ecosystems which did not need to be protected until a few years ago. Here in our Alps, we have an example of cascade problems, like we had this Via tempesta, as you say, which destroyed 100 million trees. Then we have another phenomenon, which is so-called snow trees eradication. Snow waiting on trees with no frozen soil, and they go down like this. And this creates an enormous opportunity for this insect, the bostrico, which is eating another trillions of trees. And this creates a problem for enormous floats and erosions with waters, etc. So this is a cascade system that we have to stop. So with this vision in mind, and I'm going to finish my presentation, what we did with coffee, which was the origin. One day after the Milan Expo 2015, when Jeffrey Sachs came and telling us, within 2050, up to 50% of the currently suitable land for coffee agriculture is not going to be suitable any longer as a consequence of climate change. So, well, fantastic. Are we going to have coffee in the future? So we started studying like crazy. And we are in the middle of a big crisis. This time, coffee prices reach all-time records because everybody now is aware about this horrible risk. And why this? As a consequence of droughts. Droughts are caused by the Niño, which is the #1 meteorological effect of climate change, having impacted last year both Vietnam and Brazil, which are #2 and #1 producing countries. So fantastic for speculation. So after having made, let's say, studied the dynamics, the impact of climate change on on coffee production, we said we need to do something. At the same time, we need to mitigate climate change, not only adapt to it. Nobody speaks about adaptation to climate change. Everybody keeps advocating mitigation. Nobody speaks about the fact that we need to adapt before mitigating. And luckily, there are many different actions that you can put in place which work perfectly well for adaptation and mitigation at the same time. And agriculture, regenerative agriculture is one of those. Agriculture is number one, two priority, because the factors to be considered are soil, land use, water consumption, water depletion, biodiversity loss, emissions, and pollution. 1, 2, 2. So if you make the compound average, agriculture is by far number one priority. Everything has to start from there. So I took a sabbatical. I'm a chemist by background. I took 1,000 hours studying. I said, I must find a solution to decarbonize my company in a circular way, because I don't believe in these offsetting programs. This is the only way forward, to make it in a circular way. And I was lucky. I was lucky to discover these principles of regenerative agriculture, which have been presented at the Paris COP21, the original 4 per mille law. I'm sure you have heard about that. And said, hey, this is fantastic. But nobody was speaking about it. And then I developed all the kind of the practices, and when I was ready to close my books, I said, I read one recommendation of the IPCC. Always seek for a social factor, co-benefit. What could be the co-benefit of a regenerative agriculture?
Reuse waste.
Health, yes. Of course. Health is the number one. Non-communicable diseases are the number one cause of morbidity and mortality in the Western society. Over 50 million deaths per year. A gigantic $1 trillion cost for public health. Or generally, how this is here, talking here about that. Because what you eat, because how you live. And what you eat, if you, conventional agriculture is about maximizing productivity in such a stupid way. 50% of the habitable land is occupied by agriculture. 70% of agricultural factors for animal proteins. If you eat too much animal proteins, not only you destroy the environment, but you destroy your health. And 50% of the calories intake in the world, only 3 crops. Whereas there are thousands of edible plants. So why don't we lower our animal protein intakes in order to be good for our health and for the planet, and diversify more our vegetal protein intake. So that is good for our health, it is good for the biodiversity. Simple ideas. We came to the exact same conclusion as the Eat Lancet Commission that I'm sure most of you know. We had the opportunity to work in parallel. I was alone, there were, I think, 26 scientists. We came to the same conclusions. So, the idea is soil health, which is the trigger of regenerative agriculture. The trigger of regenerative agriculture is nourishing the soil for soil biodiversity, which provides fertility, natural defenses, hydration, and also soil structure. If you have a soil health, you have a plant health, you have a produce health, and you have a human health. This is what we want to demonstrate. So we started with that, with coffee. 2 pilot plantations, one in Ethiopia and one in Guatemala, greenfield, planted in order to be regenerative from day 0. And through our University of Coffee, which exists since over 25 years now, as these two plantations, experimental plantation, pilot plantation, were generating transferable knowledge, spreading the word to the rest of the growers community working with us. We did pioneer direct sourcing 30 years ago, so we work hand in hand with our growers. We work together. We learn from them. They learn from us. So it has been a magic, because after 5 years, 80% of the growers working with us adopted regenerative practices. And the dream is more than you can dream. Why? Adaptation and mitigation with the same action. It's much more resilient to climate change. All the 5 data, productivity is the same, a cheaper cost of production, so no more land use. It retains, it consumes less water, no biodiversity loss. It's all based on the so-called integrated biodiversity, soil biodiversity, aerial, atmospheric biodiversity, all the microorganisms, all the insects, all the birds, providing ecosystem services. It's based on the so-called intraspecific biodiversity. You don't want to have the monocultivar, otherwise if one is sick, they all die. You want to have diversity. It's based on the so-called agricultural biodiversity. How many different plants you grow together, how diversified is your crop, how does it rotate? And finally, is based on the ecosystem biodiversity, which is combining the natural ecosystem surrounding the cultivated land in order to provide these ecosystem services through biological corridors and any kind of means. It's a magic. It works equally well for smallholders. In coffee, there are 70% of the coffee produced by 12.5 micro growers. 12.5 million, sorry. Half of them living under the threshold of poverty. We cannot ask them to put money on the table. So these regenerative practices, which are also promoted by the FAO under the name of agroecology, which is exactly what it is. It works very well at small scale level, as well as the large plantations. 30% of the coffee is produced by large estates, medium and large estates. They have been the first converting to regenerative agriculture at the time of the war in Ukraine, because the mineral fertilizer became so expensive, they decided, oh, let's go with regenerative, it's cheaper. Can you imagine that? But the cherry in the cake, which I was not even dreaming, my motto in my life is more than you can dream. I would have never dreamed that. The coffee is so much better. Yes. We have an award, the Ernesto Illy International Coffee Award, which is given to the first classified of each of the 9 countries we buy coffee from. And it's a blind panel, completely blind, each time renewed. And they don't know what there are no Illy taster in this panel. 2 times in a row, Brazilian regenerative coffee won. Nobody was expecting that, thanks to regenerative is so good. Last but not least, so now we are happy with that. We are going to be hopefully 100% regenerative. There has been a movement. Now coffee is becoming the leading regenerative crop. I was at Davos at the official presentation about regeneration. The new CEO of Nestlé said, regenerative agriculture is the solution. He didn't say might be or could be, hopefully will be, is the solution. And Good. They already buy over 25% of their supplies, and they are targeting 50%. Finally, as far as, let's say, correlating the agronomical practices, regenerative agronomy with health, this is the next chapter that I hope we will be able to present here in this room, because it's something that we are going to do with Generali starting soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. It was a very regenerative speech that really gave us a lot of strength and wish to really move. Thanks a lot for sharing the importance of agriculture, the soil, and the regenerative approach in agriculture. You've described what is a robust agriculture, which is not a performance, but a robust with the agroecological permaculture principles that you've perfectly described. Just wanted to mention something. You said we need to get adapted and so on and so forth. There were a very good solution that was presented thanks to Aquamour in the Aqua Pavilion. It's marine agriculture. And there's a study for coffee. Because if we use seawater to water plants, and you adapt the seeds, you get into the plant the full elements coming from the sea, oligo elements. It's exactly illustrating what you just said. Give strength to the plant, it nourishes the soil, and you can use seawater, which is very abundant for drought period. Thanks a lot. Do we have more time for a few questions? Huh?
Let me give a little
I'd
reaction
like you to yes, answer what you are also doing.
Let me permit to disagree on one point. The mind needs thesis and antithesis to get to the next level. Who invented the green economy where whatever is good for you and good for the environment is expensive? Who invented that? This is absolute stupidity. I mean, whatever is good for you and good for the environment should be cheap. So I don't agree that we have to look for the cheapest. That is one of the main paradigm shifts in the economy. Towards the blue economy, we generate value. We don't try to be the cheapest. Because if you want to be the cheapest, you can never pay your workers. You can never take care of the environment. You can never be regenerative. If you want to be the cheapest, you have to put your company in a tax haven, and you have an army of tax advisors who will make certain that you will never pay taxes. That's the economy that we have today. The blue economy, we want to generate value. Value within the system. Let me take coffee. I've been working on coffee for 35 years. I have a coffee farm in Manizales, Colombia. El Eje Cafetero. And what do? Of course, everything that has been said we do. But on top of that, when you drink your cup of coffee in the morning, do you realize that from what the farmer harvested from his bushes, you are only ingesting 0.2%? 99.8% of what the farmer harvested, we throw away. It's stupid. Why is it stupid? Because what do we do with coffee? We semicarbonize it, we grind it, we add hot water to it, and the soluble part ends up into our coffee cup. But the insoluble part has just been sterilized by hot water. This is about water here. Hot water sterilized it. So we launched 32 years ago farming mushrooms on coffee waste. Today we have 6,000 farms. Not one yet with Illy, but I think soon we will have a few. What is important?
You didn't ask.
I never ask. I always expose. No pressure. But what is important? When you have farmed a mushroom on coffee waste, you have broken down the fibers and you have added amino acids. All of a sudden your coffee, which no goat, no chicken, no cat, no dog would ever eat, turns into animal feed. You have your cup of coffee, you can farm your mushrooms, you can feed your chicken, and your chicken gives you your egg. Now I have breakfast. I have a breakfast made by the same product. So instead of having a core business focus on just the coffee, I am generating, thanks to the hot water, I'm generating feed for animals, and I'm generating additional nutrition. And this is how we have to think. Regenerative cannot stay within the product, the core product. It must generate through the whole system. And the carrier is water. Without the hot water making the coffee, nothing works. You don't even have the coffee. To me, this is important. We need to change the way we think. And that is why I need nature to help me think. This is one of my fables. I've written 365 fables. There is one country in the world that decided that they were so interesting, they have all their children read 365 of my fables. I don't know how it worked, but it worked. The Chinese government has put all my fables in the hands of all Chinese children. So I've surpassed the 1 billion copies in China. And we're thinking how to inspire the children. So this story is about how we can fish without using nets. Because one of the biggest pollutions in the ocean is nets. But everyone in nature fishes without nets. So why don't we learn from the whales and the dolphins how to fish without a net? None of them have gone hungry. Today I have a first island in Spain called El Hierro. And in El Hierro, the fishermen decided that this crazy Belgian who knows nothing about fishing at least was right with one question. Do you know the difference between a male and a female fish? Can you see the difference? Who here learns the difference between a male and a female fish? None! We don't know! Let me submit to you very humbly that if you do not know the difference between a male and a female, what do you know about life? You know nothing. As a result, if you catch a fish, and you know she's a female, and you know she's pregnant, would you eat her? No. So I have now convinced 320 million Chinese children that whenever they go to the restaurant, they check if it's a male or a female fish on the table. And they will complain when it's a female. And they will ask, where were the eggs? And don't try to eat caviar anymore. The result is that by understanding that the whales are perfectly able to catch the fish with air bubbles, we have now developed a technology in cooperation with the Portuguese universities, the technique of air bubble curtains. So we push the fish to the surface with air bubbles, like the dolphins do, like the whales do. It's been proven for millions of years to work. It's nothing new. And when they're on top, we suck them with a kind of an aspiration into the boat, and we put them into cold water. When you're put into cold water, you wake up. When a fish is put into cold water, hibernates. Then we can check male, female, male, female, 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 male, 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 and all the females back into the water. Wow. What is the result after 5 years? You give life a chance. We have 5 times more fish. 5 times more fish because we didn't kill the mothers with babies. Doesn't make sense? I mean, how barbarian are we in the way we go around the oceans? And I'm not talking about plastics, I'm talking about the basics. Now, that story, how come only the Chinese say that this is great for kids to know? In Spain, we have it on an island. We're now introducing it to many of the islands, and we realize that when you're in the Pacific, they do spear hunting. But they know the difference between a male and a female. They're never spear hunting a female. They're spear hunting the males. particularly the smaller ones, are quite useless in biological terms. I think this is the kind of shifts we need. Coffee is not a cup of coffee. Coffee is feed for the world. Fishing is not only about getting flesh from the fish and the caviar, it's about regenerating, give life a chance. So if you talk about regeneration, you really are talking about giving life a chance. And giving life a chance means that the mother must be able to bear the baby. Now, biology of fishes is a bit strange because the older the fish gets, she has more babies. So it's the grandmother delivering most of the babies. So as a result, in China today, there is a clear understanding: we will never eat grandma. La nonna nostra. And I think this is how we have to bring consciousness, emotions, heart, intuition. We have to bring it all together because the brain is not able to get it. But when the children ask the parents, why are you eating caviar? Why are you eating the babies that we should be having? Why are you talking about overfishing? We're not overfishing. We're fishing the mothers with babies. And as a result, there is no future. So this is one of the reasons that I work a lot with my dear friend. And I was in Cape Town because my son, one of my sons is living in Cape Town. I have 6 children, and one of them turned 11, and I have to be on his birthday. Second, as usual, I go diving with Craig Foster. I didn't sleep on the plane. He gave me this book, and I decided to read the book. Fortunately, it's 18 hours of flight, so in 18 hours I could go through the book. Ladies and gentlemen, biodiversity you mentioned. Craig Foster, who got the Oscar for Octopus, My Teacher. Craig is documenting 1,000 species in the kelp forest. Kelp forests, by the way, and the oceans are not on the planetary boundaries. Strange. They're the 3rd biggest capturer of CO2, but somehow it got forgotten in the equations because we're very territorial. We're land-based. But when we see the incredible intelligence embedded in the system of these 1,000 species, and to have someone dive every day to film and document the beauty and the intelligence of 1,000 species, then we have to learn something we have so great difficulty with our egos, and that's humility. We don't seem to be capable of applying the leadership of nature in humility. We talk a lot about gratitude, but what about humility? And there I believe that one of our big new initiatives with Craig is we're going to take my fables, 365, and the 365 fables we're going to document with Craig's film about the discovery of the incredible intelligence in nature.
No? Yeah. One more. I think, Andrea, short.
Thank you for raising the point about cheaper choices, because it made me understand it was not clear.
Yeah.
Of course, the regenerative economy is based on clean techs. And what I wanted to say is that we must have these clean techs to be cheaper and safer compared to the conventional technologies, as proven possible by renewable energy, for instance, and proven possible by regenerative agriculture as well. This is what I was meaning.
Yeah, and wanted also to just finish also with that. Good quality for nature is not the cheapest, and we can't. And it's really important to work on inclusivity, on better sharing of resources and wealth, because if not, the organic, sustainable markets can't emerge. And right now with the crisis, it's hard to maintain organic agriculture, organic food, and so on and so forth. So it's very important to have an ecosystemic approach to be able to find the right solutions and to move on the regenerative path. Thanks a lot to our wonderful speakers. And let's go to the next.